What's up, everybody? Welcome to our first coaches recap. And what we'll be doing is every week after practices and our tournaments is we're going to put together a recap video or sometimes maybe an email that just covers the week in review and also previews the upcoming week to talk about what went well, what went poorly, what we're learning, and what we're planning on working on next. So let's go ahead and dive into our first coaches recap. So the first question is, what went well? Well, the first thing is we scored a lot of runs. Our team batting average was 319. Our on-base percentage was 484, and that's really good. And we had 31 walks as an offense in 5 games. And that's all really, really good stuff. It means that we were competitive at the plate. We were getting runners on base. And I really like the walk total because it shows that for the most part, we were taking what the pitcher was giving us. And we had a good, disciplined approach at the plate, which generated a lot of walks. Another thing that went really well this weekend is we showed awesome resilience in 2 of our games. In the game against Engage Athletics, we scored a run late, which was awesome, to take the lead and then close it out. And then against the Eagles Baseball Academy, that was just an awesome win. There was clutch hits, there was clutch defense, clutch pitching. And in that game, it would have been really easy to just fold late in the game when we were down by several runs. But instead of folding, the team continued to battle and compete against a quality team and ultimately came out with the win in the semis. And so those 2 examples of resilience and not giving up until the very last out were big, big positives. The other thing that went well is we started the Opportunity to Excel journal. And we had to remind some guys to get it done, and we may still have to babysit that a little bit in the future, but how we think is how we perform. And so the fact that we're starting to reflect on our individual performances after each game, and we're also reflecting as a team, that's going to do nothing but help us in terms of how we think, how we prepare, and understanding what we're doing well, what we're doing poorly, what we're learning, and then using those lessons that we're learning to implement them going forward to make sure that we are making the most of every moment together and we're continuing to progress on an upward trajectory so that by the end of the summer we are a better team both individually and collectively than we are right now at the beginning. Next up is what went poorly. Where can we improve? And the first thing is WHIP. And in case you're not familiar with WHIP, WHIP is a metric that measures how many runners a pitcher is allowing on base. And so WHIP stands for walks plus hits divided by innings pitched. And we're also going to add in hit batters in that metric. And again, it measures how many base runners a pitcher is allowing. So currently, based on this first weekend, we had 17 walks, we had 2 hit batters, and we gave up 39 hits. And when you divide that total by the innings pitched, our WHIP is currently 2.07 as a pitching staff. So that means on average, we're allowing 2 base runners every single inning. And we want to work on that and bring that down. Our goal is to be at or less than 1 runner per inning. So we have some room for improvement there. And so I wanted to draw your attention to not only the WHIP statistic, but also where we were at and where we want to be. So we're currently at a 2.07 WHIP. That's 2 base runners an inning as a pitching staff, and we want to get as close to or under 1 as we possibly can. The next thing that we struggled with a little bit was our 2-strike approach, and most especially in our losses. So we had a total of 29 strikeouts in 5 games, and so that's about 5.8 strikeouts per game. And that equals a 18% strikeout rate, but just about just under half of our strikeouts came in our 2 losses. So we had 14 strikeouts in our 2 losses, and we had 15 strikeouts in our 3 wins. And that's not a coincidence. The more we put the ball in play, the better we compete with 2 strikes, the better we're going to be offensively, because when we put the ball in play, we're putting pressure on the defense. We're making the other team earn every single out. And so we want to make sure that we are competing in every single game with 2 strikes. And our goal, so our current strikeout rate is about 18%, and we want to get that down to 15% or less. The next thing that we can improve is our energy in our 2 losses. So we kind of got a big lead against the advanced baseball team, and it seems like we kind of sat on that a little bit. Maybe we were tired from the game before, but our energy just wasn't quite good enough, and it came back to bite us when we gave up that big lead at the end of the game. And I think if we had better energy throughout the course of the whole game and kept building and adding on that lead, then we wouldn't have let that team hang around and have an opportunity to come back and beat us. And then in the championship game, obviously that was a little bit of a downer after a really, really exciting win in the semis. But as a team, when you get punched in the mouth by the other team, because they came out swinging and that team could hit, they smoked the team they played in the semis 8-0. And so them scoring a lot of runs was not a surprise. But when you get down early like we did, it's a big test of your energy and of your character to say, how am I going to respond to this? What am I going to do? Am I going to let it get me down and just kind of cash it in? Or am I going to compete a lot like the team did against the Eagles Baseball Academy? Am I going to keep competing to the end and give yourself a chance to win? So energy and 2 losses, our 2-strike approach, and our whip, those are 3 big things that I think we can improve going forward. So what did we learn? The first thing is that pitch efficiency really, really matters. How we are attacking hitters and how we are limiting base runners getting on base, that's a big deal. That's going to be a key to competing against any team, but especially the better teams that we're going to face. And so how do we get our whip from a 2.07 down to a 1? Well, it starts with our strike percentage, and we want to improve our strike percentage. As a team, our strike percentage was 60%. So 60% of our pitches were strikes. And our goal is 70% or more. So we have room for improvement there. And more specifically within that, our first pitch strike percentage is really, really important because that first pitch sets the tone for the at-bat. It either gives the advantage to the pitcher or the hitter. And our first pitch strike percentage was only 52%. And our goal for first pitch strike percentage is actually higher than our overall strike percentage goal. And our goal with the first pitch strike percentage is 75% because we're not worried about, most of the time, we're not worried about off-speed pitches. We're just attacking the hitter early. So we should be able to command the strike zone and have a higher strike percentage. The next thing we want to improve on that we learned is just our 2-strike approach. And we want to compete better, especially when and if the umpire zone is big. And this is really important just to kind of go over it again because outs are the currency in baseball. And the more pressure we can put on a defense, the more we can make the opposing team earn every single out they get, the better our chances to win, to force them to make errors, to put the ball in play and have the ball find a hole and get a knock. And it just more good things can happen. So our 2-strike approach is something we learned that can make a big difference in our wins and losses, and it's something that we want to continue to build on because, at the end of the day, putting pressure on the defense, making them earn every single out is a key element to scoring runs and winning baseball games. What else did we learn? That our energy really matters because the energy wasn't good enough in our 2 losses, and how we think determines how we play. So if we think we're down, if we think we're frustrated, if we think about things that are negative, then that's going to do nothing but drag us down. And so when we get a big lead, it's going to be tempting to sit on that. Well, we want to keep our energy up and keep our focus up and build on that lead and extend and bury the team and put them away. And if we get down early, like we did in the championship game, well, then we need to make sure that our energy is still 100%, that we're still focused and fighting as hard as we can, regardless of how likely it looks like we can win the game. Our energy is still something that we should have as high as we possibly can, because at the end of the day, guys, our energy is something that we can always control. Now, the circumstances, sometimes it can be challenging. Sometimes it's not easy to have good energy, but regardless of our circumstances, the energy is something that we can control completely 100% of the time, regardless of circumstances, regardless of results. So that's something that we want to remember from this past weekend and take with us and build on so that we can make sure we don't let low energy cost us potential results in the win column and the individual performance column. And the last thing we learned is something that we'll continue to talk about, because our theme is, as our mission is, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And that's really all about being a great teammate. And the true test of a team and a teammate is adversity, because when we're rolling 14-1, when we're dealing on the mound, when everything's going great, it's super easy to be a great teammate. It's super easy to have high energy and be positive. But what happens when things go bad? What happens when a teammate makes a mistake, when a pitcher gives up a home run, when our offense is just struggling? What happens then? What kind of team and what kind of teammate are we when stuff gets hard? That's the true test, because again, everybody can be a great teammate when it's easy and when it's fun and when you're winning. But what about when it's hard? What about when you're losing? What about when you're struggling? That's really the true test of what it means to be a great teammate. And so that's something that we want to learn from this past weekend and build on, so that going forward, when we face that adversity and we see that true test of who we are as a team and what kind of teammate we are, we can make sure that we're responding the right way and we're being great teammates and we're a great team, whether it's going good or it's going bad for us. So kind of previewing the next week for what we're going to be working on. The first thing with practice is we're going to continue to work on our fundamentals. We're going to continue to get reps on defense and continue to install team defense elements. We're also going to focus hard on our two-strike approach, make sure that we are covering the outside part of the plate, especially in the event that the umpire has a really big zone. And we're just going to challenge ourselves as hitters to compete better with two strikes against good pitching. And also on the mound, we're going to continue to work on owning our pitches and establishing a 70% strike percentage overall, with a key emphasis on getting ahead of the hitter with our first pitch strikes. Going into our Columbia tournament, we're going to make sure that our pitching and our lineups are set up, and we're going to do everything we can to go and prepare as well as we can. So this past weekend, I think, was a huge net positive for our first tournament. And as coaches, we learned a lot about lineups and combinations. We got to see the guys perform in 5 games, which was great. And so this first weekend was good. Was it perfect? By no means. It wasn't perfect, but for the players or for the coaches. But we learned a lot. And so we'll be able to make adjustments going forward in terms of batting lineups and defensive combinations, and just doing what we can as coaches to put the team in the best position for success. So we'll take this past weekend. We'll see how practice goes in terms of the guys' work ethic and how they're performing and how we're progressing this week. And we will go into Columbia building lineups that will be as competitive as possible. The other thing we're going to talk about this week is pace. And so just a quick preview, building on kind of the energy talk we were talking about with this past weekend, is PACE is an acronym that stands for 4 things that are 100% in our control at all times. P is preparation, A is attitude, C is concentration, and E is effort. So our pace is going to determine how well we do, and we should always be setting a good pace for ourselves with our preparation, attitude, concentration, and effort. And those 4 things are 100% within our control at all times. So we're going to kind of dive into what that looks like practically and continue talking about that as a theme, so we can make sure we're controlling those things that we have complete control of, that also put us in a position to succeed to the best of our abilities. The next thing I want to mention is, as we're going into this week, is please take care of your bodies. So it's really important that you're taking care of your arms, that when you get done with the weekend and you're tired and you're sore, one of the worst things you can do on a Monday is just sit on the couch and do nothing. So you want to get up and you want to get your body moving. It's not bad to throw if your arm's a little sore. Now, if you're injured or you have a medical reason to not throw, that's a different conversation. But if your arm's just a little tired, it's actually helpful to play a little light catch the next day. If you don't have a partner, then go find a wall and just throw some baseballs off the wall. Just kind of flush things out, get your blood flowing. Because a lot of times arm soreness and arm injuries, I'm a big believer in the fact that guys have arm problems not because they're throwing too much, but because they're not throwing enough in the right ways. And what that means is, if you do nothing 2 or 3 days a week, and then all of a sudden you ramp up and you go 110%, the other days of the week, well, your arm is going to go from 0 to 100 back to 0, and that's not really a good maintenance plan. So that's like trying to say, I'm going to sit and then I'm going to go run as hard as I can, and I'm not going to do anything other than 0 or 100%. That's just not how your body operates. That's not how you set yourself up for optimal performance. So you want to make sure you're taking care of your bodies, whether it's ice, whether you have a running program, whatever you're doing, but make sure that you're not just sitting around doing nothing, because that's not going to help your body heal. Active recovery is going to be really important, and our health as a team, our health as a pitching staff is going to be really important for our success, because if we have guys who can't pitch deep into games because their arm gets tired, well, it's going to affect us. That's going to change who we can put on the mound. It's going to change our ability to compete with our best arms. So just make sure you're doing what you need to do to take care of your bodies. Don't just assume your body's going to heal and feel better just by doing nothing. You want to take control and ownership of your physical health and do what you need to do to help yourself heal and get ready for the next practice and the next tournament. And if you have any specific questions or have any issues nagging, let me know, and I'd be glad to help you figure that out individually. So that's just sum it up for this first coach's recap. I'm always available, text, call, email, whatever you guys need. I'm excited. I'll be home a week from Thursday, so this Columbia tournament is the last tournament that I'll miss. And then I'll be back in town, and I can't wait. So good weekend overall, plenty of stuff to work on. We are not even close to as good of a team as we're going to be, and that's exciting. So get ready to work this week, and let me know if I can do anything for you.